Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has been brought to New York. Remember that Maduro was captured and brought to the US. Maduro will now be taken to the US detention center is what we're getting at this hour. Now, Maduro and his wife were captured from their home and brought aboard a US warship plane. Remember that the US warship plane was carrying the disposed leader and has landed in New York. A convoy carrying the captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro on Saturday arrived at the Drug Enforcement Administration offices in New York. This is the latest that we're tracking at this hour. Remember that Nicolas Maduro and his wife were captured and taken by the United States in midnight in Venezuela. Meanwhile, we also have reports coming in from my colleague Sheetal. Let's also listen in to what she had to say.
Venezuelan President Maduro has been brought to New York, but he is in fact being brought to New York State, which is upstate 60 miles away from New York City, and he is going to be transported to the Metropolitan Detention Center, which is also famously the center where Ghislaine Maxwell was kept. And we don't have enough information about the timeline as to when and how, in what scenario will he be transported. But that detention center happens to be in Brooklyn, and we are sure that we'll get more information when we reach the Brooklyn detention center soon. And hopefully I'll be able to share more details about how he is looking and how the whole thing is going to pan out. And as we know that he is being charged with what the prosecutors are saying, that his role has been allegedly in bringing tons of thousands of cocaine in the US. And there are very interesting charges that he has against him, including narco-terrorism, conspiracy to import cocaine, drug trafficking, and possession of machine guns and destructive devices.
Well, on this year, my colleague Trini Mary joining us from Caracas, Venezuela. Wish to understand from you, of course, there seems to be a big uproar that's been created in Venezuela, of course, after the capture of Maduro and his wife. Now, how exactly does, the position of opposition leaders, especially Edmundo Gonzalez, feature in this entire scenario?
Well, so far, the opposition has remained in silence. They say a transition is coming from the country. They are releasing some messages through social media, especially Edmundo Gonzalez, who the opposition claims won the past election in Venezuela in 2024, but hasn't been accepted by the Maduro government. We need to remember that was a disputed election last year that the opposition claims they won. After that, Edmundo Gonzalez and also the Nobel Prize Maria Corina Machado began a campaign saying that was the legitimate president of Venezuela. And right now they are saying through social media that a transition is coming soon for Venezuela. Some people don't believe that. They are aware of the situation, especially because they are outside of the country. And some people close to the inner circle of Nicolas Maduro remain loyal to him. So it is crucial to see what is going to happen on the next couple of hours.
Right, and also, walk us through exactly what the role of Maria Corina Machado is. You've mentioned her, and I believe she's also penned a letter openly where she's in fact criticized Maduro and in fact hailed the US president's decision.
Well, Maria Corina Machado has been an opposition figure for many years in the country, and she has denounced Nicolas Maduro with those of charges that right now the U.S. is labeling him, such as that he's involved in narco-terrorism, or that he also participated in illicit relationships with Iran and some other countries. For the opposition, this is a rightful decision and by the U.S., and they are openly supporting what Donald Trump is doing in Venezuela.
Right, absolutely. In fact, Trini, stay with us on the broadcast as we track more breaking news coming in at this hour. Meanwhile, let's also in fact walk our viewers through the recent developments that have come in from Venezuela at this hour. Of course, these developments have kept the world watching. Let's in fact take you through these developments and of course the chaos, anxiety and the conflict which is to follow once of course all of this settles. Now, on the latest that we're getting, Maduro has reached New York. The Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro landed in the New York States following, in fact, his capture. He arrived in upstate New York following a capture in an overnight US operation. Well, video showed a plane arriving at the Stewart International Airport about 97 kilometers northwest of the New York City, with several US personnel and FBI and other guests boarding the aircraft after it landed. Next up is a fact about how hours after he was captured by the US forces in an audacious military operation, while the US President Donald Trump posted a picture of the handcuffed and blindfolded Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro on his Truth Social account. Now, he was dressed to be, of course, he appeared in what was a tracksuit, while the 63-year-old South American leader was seen clutching onto a plastic water bottle, as shown in the picture. Well, Trump watches live the Venezuelan operation is what we're getting at this hour as U.S. troops advanced into the presidential house in Venezuela. The U.S. President Donald Trump watched the entire operation live is what we're getting. As per reports, the operation even involved dragging the leader and his wife out of their beds before being captured. Over 150 aircrafts were used in the Venezuelan operation is what Intel is telling us. Apart from this, we're also getting information that there were stealth fighters and bombers that were used. In fact, the U.S. administration also seems to have confirmed this. The Trump administration laid down the details of the overnight strike, after which, of course, Maduro and his wife, Cilia Flores, were flown by helicopter into a U.S. warship. Now, General Dane Kane, in fact, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said that the U.S. forces had rehearsed their maneuvers for months, learning everything about Maduro, where he was, what he ate, even details of his pets and the clothes he wore. Now, Trump also confirmed that while some were in fact badly injured, all aircrafts and members of the operation returned home safely. Well, we're also getting information that Maduro's supporters have protested in Caracas. The government officials and supporters of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro gathered in downtown Caracas after U.S. President Donald Trump announced that Maduro and his wife were captured by the U.S. forces and taken out of the country. Well, tracking more on this story at this hour, after an unprecedented large-scale strike on Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro has reached New York. Remember that in a dramatic operation, both Maduro as well as his wife were captured, brought to the U.S. on a warship. Images even showed Maduro captured by the U.S. forces. Now, in the latest, U.S. President Donald Trump has posted a picture of handcuffed and blindfolded Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro aboard a U.S. warship on his Truth Social account. Well, Maduro appears to be dressed in a grey sweatshirt and sweatpants. The 63-year-old South American leader with large headphones on was seen clutching on to a plastic water bottle, as shown in the picture on your screens at the moment. Well, Maduro is expected to be taken to a detention center in New York. Now, Trump says that he watched the strikes live and even called it a live TV show and claims that U.S. will run Venezuela until a transition of power takes place.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. As everyone knows, the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust, for a long period of time. They were pumping almost nothing by comparison to what they could have been pumping and what could have taken place. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country. And we are ready to stage a second and much larger attack if we need to do so. So we were prepared to do a second wave. It was dark and it was deadly. But captured along with his wife, Cilia Flores, both of whom now face American justice. Maduro and Flores have been indicted in the Southern District of New York. It's Jay Clayton, for their campaign of deadly narco-terrorism against the United States and its citizens. Maduro and his wife will soon face the full might of American justice and stand trial on American soil.
Well, that was the US President Donald Trump, in fact, describing the strike at Venezuela. Meanwhile, protests have erupted in Venezuela over the dramatic capture. Venezuela's vice president has demanded Maduro's release, warning that the country is ready to defend its resources. Meanwhile, my colleague Jagrati tracks the latest coming in from Washington. Let's also listen in to what she had to say.
All cameras were on the military base in New York State, just outside of New York City, where Nicolas Maduro's plane that was transporting him was landing, and there was cameras there that you could see pictures of what appeared to be a figure that looked similarly dressed to the man in the photograph that Donald Trump posted on Truth Social. Nicolas Maduro dressed in a sort of a light colored tracksuit, and you could see in those videos of the news reporters' cameras of a man sort of shuffling, surrounded by agents, being taken for processing. And obviously this is all part of this arrest warrant that the United States had issued for Nicolas Maduro. An unsealed Department of Justice indictment showed accused Maduro of and his associates of terrorism, a conspiracy to import cocaine into the United States, drug trafficking, corruption of public institutions to protect illegal shipments, drug shipments, and partnerships with foreign drug terror groups, as well as the possession of machine guns. In the indictment, Maduro's son, his wife, and a minister of the Interior was among those named. So we're expecting the arraignment to happen perhaps as early as Monday. This is a very, very fast-moving situation indeed.